A new era of governance is here, predicted by those who govern themselves and to the dismay of those who lacked foresight. Risk management has become a necessity in ensuring that companies don't just stay afloat, but operate and adapt, knowing that any crisis would allow them to transform and not affect their sustainability. Around the world, businesses have taken into consideration the environmental, social, and governance principles as a critical consideration into their strategies. But the outliers outweigh the flexible, and this is no different in our own continent. Having the most diverse population, rich in natural resources, and exporting million tons of precious metals and commodities per year, it's time that Africa takes the forefront in leading the world in a new level of prosperity. However, many issues still persist on our continent, including poverty, crime, gender-based violence, corruption, the mismanagement of precious resources, and low corporate governance. As Africans, we need to recognize the value our continent can provide and evolve our business practices not just for wealth, but for the prosperity of societies and generations to come. Now, we have the tool that is built by Africans for Africa and the globe.
So the ESG GPS model is not just a one-size-fits-all. We want companies not just to go from good to great, but to be built to last. That's all about sustainability.
And has already started shaping companies to become inclusive of the ESG landscape in South Africa, Nigeria, Mauritius, Botswana, Ghana, and Kenya. And now, we look to East Africa to continue and progress Africa's drive towards sustainability and move Africa towards global alignment to net zero. This is ESG GPS, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. Introducing our first keynote address, we have the founder of Risk Insights, Anushka Bogdanov.
Welcome to the launch of ESG GPS for Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania. Congratulations to Risk Insights for its unwavering dedication to enhancing sustainability across Africa. We have a superb lineup of speakers for this launch, and I hope that you enjoy the session. ESG is a core focus for Risk Insights, and its commitment to extending the reach of ESG data to countries historically challenged by data scarcity ensures Africa's inclusion in the global shift towards enhanced governance. According to the Global Risk Report of the World Economic Forum, climate risk remains one of the top 5 risks the world faces in the short, medium, and long term. The materiality and proportionality of ESG for the African capital markets will significantly influence social inclusivity and economic development across the continent, especially as the world embraces green energy transition while AI and quantum computing continue to shape the world. ESG and sustainability have gained momentum and will continue to gain unprecedented momentum across the globe. The year 2024 marks a significant milestone with the introduction of IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standards, S1 and S2. These regulations emphasize single materiality, focusing on climate-related disclosures that directly impact the financial performance of companies. The adoption and implementation of these standards are spreading rapidly across various countries, signifying a unified global approach to sustainability. Standard setters have actively been engaging with diverse stakeholders from the business community, civil society, and regulatory bodies to socialize these regulations and build capacity throughout Africa. This collaborative approach ensures that everyone is equipped to meet the standards and contribute to a sustainable future. Although these regulations are not yet being adopted universally across Africa, many companies on the continent are leading the charge. They are proactively embracing these new standards to secure a competitive edge and bolster investor confidence. In doing so, they are future-proofing their revenue streams and demonstrating a commitment to sustainability. By reporting and disclosing ESG-related information, these companies are building trust with stakeholders, including investors, customers, and the communities they serve. So what does ESG GPS mean for the African issuers and the capital markets? The introduction of ESG GPS provides a transformative tool for the consolidation of ESG data for Africa. This platform collects and harmonizes data reported under any global framework in an independent, transparent, and consistent manner. Utilizing advanced AI and machine learning algorithms, ESG GPS ensures that companies, investors, and all stakeholders can compare, consolidate, and validate ESG data effectively. This capability is crucial for informed decisions and to prevent greenwashing. The past few years has seen the rise of anti-ESG movements, as well as several prominent companies being faced with accusations of alleged greenwashing. Now, greenwashing is a term that is used for the practice where companies make misleading and exaggerated claims about their environmental practices and appear to be more environmentally friendly than they truly are. Amongst them were Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Both the companies have been criticized for promoting their products as environmentally friendly despite contributions to plastic pollution. BP and Shell, these oil giants, have been accused of overstating their investments in renewable energy while continuing to rely heavily on fossil fuels. H&M, the fast fashion retailer, has been scrutinized for its conscious collection, which some argue lacks substantial environmental benefits. IKEA, once seen as a leader in sustainability, has faced allegations regarding the sourcing of wood from illegal logging activities. Starbucks, the company's strawless lid initiative, was criticized for actually increasing plastic use. Nespresso, accused of misleading claims about recycling its coffee pods. Walmart, the retail giant, has faced skepticism over its claims of transitioning to low-carbon model without comprehensive plans to reduce supply chain emissions. And in Africa, the issue that persists that some companies use vague and unsubstantiated terms like eco-friendly or sustainable without providing concrete evidence or meeting recognized standards. Currently, Africa has the lowest carbon emissions globally. Despite this, the continent's investment in green transition are the lowest compared to the rest of the world. This disparity can be attributed to several factors. Firstly, political instability. This deters potential investments. Investors often seek environments where capital can grow without undue risk, and unfortunately, political unrest can undermine such confidence in Africa. The slow adoption of IFRS sustainability regulations hampers progress. Some African leaders perceive these regulations as constraints imposed by the global West, potentially stifling growth on a resource-rich continent. They argue that Africa has not historically contributed significantly to global emissions. Given Africa's history and its socio-economic and infrastructure challenges, the continent is particularly vulnerable to climate-related risk, impacting both people and economies. Thirdly, the issue of carbon credits being sold in the involuntary, unregulated market poses significant challenge. These carbon credits are often sold to less environmentally conscious companies. This practice undermines the genuine efforts to reduce emissions and can detract from long-term sustainability goals. Lastly, the carbon trading in Africa is highly politicized, with limited private sector involvement. Government control over carbon markets can lead to inefficiencies and missed opportunities for broader engagement and innovation from the private sector. The clean energy transition will be a litmus test for true value creation and resilience in the future. I recently had the opportunity to visit Dalian, a city in China, for the Summit Davos hosted by the World Economic Forum New Champions Annual Summit. I was genuinely surprised by China's green prospects and the impressive strides they are taking in sustainability. It was evident that China has made significant progress in collecting and transforming ESG-related data for the capital markets. The number of green projects underway is remarkable, all aimed at ensuring China meets its net zero target by 2030. An exciting revelation was the fusion technology, a potential game changer for clean energy, which is about 5 years away from realization, according to China. China's rapid greening efforts were further confirmed at a recent presentation I attended in London. It was reported that the investments in green energy in China now exceed that of Europe and America combined. This commitment underscores China's determination to lead the global energy transition. The geopolitical landscape will be significantly influenced by leaders of the energy transition, especially as the world accelerates its adoption of AI and digital technologies which demand more energy for quantum computing. Currently, China, United States of America, and Europe are in the race for power and superiority in this new era of energy innovation. The stakes are high, and the actions we take as Africa will determine our collective future. Embracing the clean energy transition is not just about meeting targets, but securing a resilient and sustainable world for generations to come. Now, let me emphasize the critical importance of ESG data, energy efficiency, and clean energy transition for leadership. Leadership is accountable in ESG matters, as it is paramount for companies today. According to a recent article by PRI, companies that embrace greater accountability in sustainability can reap numerous benefits, which means enhanced risk and opportunity detection, reduced legal and compliance costs, investor trust and expectations, and attractiveness to investors and creditors. As we navigate this transformative era, it is clear that ESG considerations are not merely a regulatory requirement, but a pathway to a more inclusive and economically viable future. The ESG GPS tool provides Africa with a seat at the table to use the empirical data to drive impact investments. So let us celebrate and support the pioneering efforts of African companies and the relentless work of standard setters and the work of risk insights to ensure that Africa is not left behind while the convergence of AI, quantum computing, and energy transition technologies shape our world, and Africa remains at the forefront of this global sustainability movement. I thank you.
Up next, we have Andrei Bogdanov, CEO at Risk Insights.
Good morning. My name is Andrei Bogdanov. I am CEO of Risk Insights. Thank you for joining me today for the launch of ESG GPS in Tanzania, Rwanda, and Uganda. It is well known that Africa is a source of over 50% of the resources required for global green transition. It's also known that Africa is home for over 70% of global population. What is less known is that the continent has the lowest carbon emission per head in the world. Africa effectively balances the CO2 emissions of the world. Yet, it remains vulnerable to climate change due to shallow capital markets, thus leading to a lack of investment to support Africa's green energy transition. The continent has deep carbon credits pockets, and it's critical to count and disclose these carbon credits, as it leads to environmental accountability, regulatory compliance, it responds to investor and other stakeholders' demands. It provides competitive advantage, efficiency, and cost savings. And overall, it ensures climate change mitigation and stakeholder engagement. Good ESG disclosure not only helps in addressing the urgent issue of climate change, but also benefits companies through improved operational efficiency, enhanced reputation, and increased attractiveness to investors and consumers. By being transparent about their carbon emissions, companies can play a significant role in the global transition to a low-carbon economy. Let me navigate you today at a very high level in some of the key climate-related risk disclosure factors of Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda listed companies. My team will be pleased to provide you with further information and details through various subscription options. This presentation just marks a few important variables from our data bank with over 300 ESG factors available to our clients. This data gives issuers and investors a baseline in terms of the status of natural capital disclosure for these three exchanges when compared to the same data set of Johannesburg Stock Exchange in South Africa, where ESG GPS model was launched 4 years ago. It is critical to understand how well listed companies are disclosing such information to focus efforts. As you can see, overall, much higher percentage of the companies are disclosing in Uganda. Looking at carbon emissions data for Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda, Uganda appears to have more disclosure in comparison to Tanzania and Rwanda. Yet, the maturity level of Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda exchanges reporting on CO2 emissions compared to the GSE, which is the largest stock exchange on the African continent, is low. The same is evidenced when analyzing the disclosure of the number of companies reporting on energy consumption. Based on the water consumption variable, it is evident that the maturity level of reporting for the three exchanges will need to improve, while some of the Uganda Stock Exchange issuers have already started reporting on this variable. It is also evident that some sectors in the GSC will need to improve their water stewardship. Reporting on the waste that contributes to emissions is growing in South Africa as part of the disclosures, while issuers' disclosure in Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda are still embryonic. This slide shows transition targets for issuers in all 4 of the exchanges. It reflects strong commitment to net zero. However, to reach net zero, it is critical for issuers to report on their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, energy consumption, water stewardship, waste management, and their natural resources management, and efficiency commitment disclosures. Dear stakeholders, I hope that you have found the data interesting and relevant for Africa's commitment to drive sustainability in the 20th century. Thank you.
Introducing our next keynote address, Professor Robert Faulkner, Professor of International Relations at London School of Economics and Academic Dean of the Triumph Global Executive MBA program.
My name is Robert Faulkner. I'm a Professor of International Relations at the London School of Economics, and I also serve as the Academic Dean of the Triumph Global EMBA program, which is a partnership between NYU Stern School of Business, HEC Paris, and the LSE. I'm really pleased to be contributing to the launch of the Risk Insights ESG tool for Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. Many congratulations to the team for the launch event. It's great to know that there is such interest in ESG investing in Africa. And we know, of course, that the transition to green technology and green energy and green production is a very urgent task. So it's encouraging to see this growing interest in understanding how to promote ESG investing and how to ensure that that is done to the highest standard possible. It's also worth remembering that Africa, of course, has huge potential in this green transition, both as a provider of green energy, but also as a future host of green production and green trade. To provide a bit of background for your launch, I wanted to briefly talk about the rise of environmental ideas and values in global politics. This is something that I've been researching for many years now, for a good 2 decades, in fact. 3 years ago, in 2021, I published a book which is called Environmentalism and Global International Society, and that sort of sums up much of my research on these topics. So I want to draw on that book a little bit and say a little bit more about the history of global environmentalism. In the book, I trace that history of environmental ideas and how they emerged in the international context, and I trace it all the way back to the late 19th century. It's interesting to note that at the global level, we have been talking about global environmental protection for over 100 years. But it was only since the Second World War, and specifically since the first UN Environment Conference, which took place in Stockholm in 1972, that the international community has taken environmental issues more seriously. And in my book, I tell this story of how we got into this and how it became possible to promote global environmental policies that states were pursuing at different levels, all the way from the local level to the international level. So let me highlight perhaps a few trends, 3 trends, in fact, that characterize this decades-long history of global environmentalism. The first trend I want to emphasize is that the rise of environmental ideas is, of course, driven by the growing environmental crisis that we face in so many contexts, at so many different levels. There is growing environmental pressure that countries around the world feel, in Africa in particular. Biodiversity loss is a widely recognized problem. Deforestation, urbanization, growing industrialization are all putting enormous pressure on existing biodiversity hotspots. Animal and plant species are being threatened by extinction, and that needs urgent attention. Climate change is another big topic that's occupying political attention at the moment, and that's not least because the impacts of a warming climate are being felt ever more severely, and indeed they are no longer just theorized for future years, but they are happening right now and there. Increasing droughts and flooding, rising sea levels, extreme weather events are now very much affecting livelihoods in many parts of the world, and particularly in developing countries that are often least prepared to face some of these challenges. And so it's unsurprising that global environmental politics has expanded over the years, over the decades. We recognize so many more global problems, and we need global solutions to work out how to deal with these issues. The second trend that we note is that the environmental agenda itself has been transformed in recent years, in recent decades. There's been a much bigger shift on sustainable development and a shift away from the earlier focus on just purely nature conservation. This is something that became quite clear at the 1992 Earth Summit, which took place in Rio de Janeiro. That was the time when sustainable development became the kind of guiding principle of our global efforts around environmental protection. And it was reinforced quite recently in 2015 when the United Nations adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. So sustainable development is now the guiding principle of a lot of global environmental issues. And what it signals is a clear message about how protecting the planet and fighting poverty have to go hand in hand. This is obviously an insight that many African countries have long promoted. We're not going to protect endangered species or reduce greenhouse gas emissions if we don't also provide for sustainable livelihoods, and if we don't promote economic development that can occur within the ecological boundaries of various ecosystems. And this affects the livelihoods of hundreds of millions of people around the planet. As long as so many people live in poverty, sustainable development cannot happen and environmental protection will fail. And that's one of the clear shifts in the global debate on the environment. And the third point I want to mention is that business actors are playing an ever more critical role in all of these debates. That was less so the case at the beginning of the environmental revolution. Back in 1972, when the first UN conference met, there were hardly any business players engaged in this. But by the time of the Rio conference, 1992, and in more recent years, we see a plethora of business actors engaging in debates about how to reduce global warming, how to cut back on greenhouse gas emissions, how to embed environmental management systems around the world, and how to promote technological change to reduce pollution levels and to shift towards a greener energy level. And it's now clearly recognized that global business is a key source, not just of economic growth, but also of that kind of technological and economic change that will produce a shift towards greener production and consumption methods. So it's important that when we talk about ESG, as you will do at this launch event, we're talking about quite a profound business revolution as well that has taken place in recent years. A growing number of business leaders have come to realize that without integrating ESG standards, they are going to fail to deliver on the fronts where they're expected to serve both public and private purposes. So I think this is high time to think about establishing but also implementing these internationally leading ESG standards that you will be discussing. I've provided just a little bit of background and motivation for the launch event, and I wish you a very successful event indeed. Thank you very much.
Up next, we have Thapelo Cheole, CEO at Capital Market Authority, Rwanda.
Good afternoon. My name is Thapelo Cheole. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Capital Market Authority, Rwanda. We're in charge of regulating the market, and we are also in charge of capital market development in Rwanda. I would like to first, of course, start by congratulating Risk Insight by entering the Rwandan market in order to offer the advanced and much needed services that they provide to other markets around Africa and also around the world. But most importantly, to get into an area which is quite important to Rwanda, and which I think the country Rwanda have done a lot of activities associated with sustainability, associated also with ESG. And therefore, I think the ESG rating matrix will add to a lot of developments that are already taking place locally in Rwanda. Some of them being the planned issuance of green bonds in the market, and also a lot of companies looking to get into the green finance stage and sustainability stage. The good thing is that I think sustainability is a topic that is taken much more seriously in Rwanda. And I think there are enormous opportunities that are offered by the market, and the government and other stakeholders are doing a lot of work in terms of buildings, in terms of power generation, in terms of the normal sustainability issues like the business conduct, in terms of governance issues, in terms of social issues, and also largely environmental issues, I think are at the core of the government agenda towards sustainability. There have been a lot of developments. I wouldn't necessarily get into each one of them. But there's a lot of work that is going on in Rwanda concerning sustainability and also ESG and also green finance in virtually all the sectors around the economy. And therefore, I think the coming in of Risk Insight, I think, will add to the matrix, or will add to the already growing activities in the country. And therefore, we are looking so much to working with Risk Insight to develop the Rwandan market, and also to use its analytical tools and advanced know-how in order to aid the development of the sustainability ESG in Rwanda. Thank you very much.
Up next, we have Paul Buiso, CEO at Uganda Securities Exchange.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Paul Buiso, the Chief Executive at Uganda Securities Exchange. Today, I want to talk about a crucial topic that affects us all, ESG and sustainability. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and it's a framework that helps us understand how businesses impact the world around us. Environmental considerations include climate change, deforestation, pollution. Social aspects encompass human rights, labor standards, and community engagement. Governance, on the other hand, covers board diversity, executive pay, and auditing practices. Sustainability is about meeting our needs without compromising future generations. It's a call to action for businesses, governments, and individuals to work together. We face pressing global challenges: climate change, inequality, and social injustice. ESG and sustainability offer a roadmap for a better future. Businesses embracing ESG and sustainability see improved brand reputation, increased innovation, better risk management. Investors seek ESG-friendly companies, and consumers demand responsible practices. Specifically at the Uganda Securities Exchange and in Uganda, we have taken a lot of effort to improve our financial reporting around sustainability and ESG. Specifically, we've seen companies use different tools and guidelines, such as the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchanges Initiative guidelines. We've seen the IFC principles. We've seen utilization of the Global Reporting Initiative guidelines, among others. Our companies have continued to improve in reporting sustainability and have made this the core behind their businesses, among others. Looking at the regulations, Uganda recently passed the Carbon Markets Act, and that was in 2021, and we've seen a direct drive in improving carbon emissions and working towards a net zero. And these have been embedded under the National Development Plan 3 and also are being planned for under the National Development Plan 4. Our regulator, the Capital Markets Authority, in partnership with the regulators in the East African region under EASRA, have pledged and made a commitment to work on regulations that will guide sustainability across the East African markets. This brings to light the need to provide policy at the governance level, and shows the commitment of the regulators and government to ensure that sustainability is at the core of this industry. USC, we continue to pledge to work with our listed companies and to provide a platform that embraces sustainability. We have partnered with FSD Africa to put in place rules and regulations that cover thematic bonds and sustainability, and we'll be able to have these in place in early Q1 2025. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Risk Insights for this initiative, specifically the launch for the ESG GPS rating tool that will be utilized by the listed companies on the Uganda Securities Exchange to help them assess and improve their reporting around ESG matters. As individuals, we can make a difference through cautious choices. We can reduce, reuse, recycle, and support sustainable brands and advocate for change. Let us work together to create a more sustainable future. We owe it to ourselves, our children, and the planet. As market drivers, leaders, and drivers of large companies in Uganda, we pledge our commitment to fully support this initiative on sustainability. I thank you.
Up next, we have Abubaida Shabat, Executive Director and Head of Data Science Lab at Risk Insights.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm excited to share how Risk Insight leverages artificial intelligence AI to build sustainable future for both listed and private companies, particularly in the realm of ESG factors. As many of you are aware, capturing and extracting ESG data presents significant challenges. One of the biggest challenges is the lack of standardization in ESG reporting. Without a universal standard, companies report ESG data inconsistently. Different frameworks and guidelines lead to varying matrices and format, making it difficult to compare and aggregate data accurately across companies. The complexity and the volume of ESG data further complicate matters. ESG encompasses a wide range of matrices, from carbon emission to labor practices to corporate governance structure. Collecting and analyzing such diverse data demands significant resources and expertise. ESG issues are also dynamic and continuously evolving. New issues emerging, and different expectations change over time. Additionally, some ESG data is qualitative in nature. This includes corporate policies, employee satisfaction, and community impact. Measuring and standardizing this type of data is inherently difficult compared to financial data. Moreover, the majority of rating agencies still rely on manual data collection. This approach not only affects the quality of the data, but is also incredibly time-consuming, further compounding the difficulties in managing ESG information. At Risk Insight, we harness the power of AI to effectively address the challenges in capturing and extracting ESG data. Here's how AI is transforming the ESG data landscape. From automating the process of data collection and standardizing, significantly reducing the time and effort required. This automation allows our analysts to focus on more strategic tasks rather than being bogged down by manual data entry. AI algorithms detect and correct inconsistency in data, enhancing overall accuracy. Also, by minimizing the human errors, AI provides more reliable and constant data. Also, the AI algorithms analyze a vast array of unstructured data sources, such as news articles, social media, and financial reports, which often overlooked by traditional methods. The ability to tap into diverse data sources gives us a more holistic view of companies' ESG performance. Also, the AI enables a real-time monitoring of ESG factors, allowing us to provide up-to-date insight. Risk Insight has implemented 6 innovative applications to help listed and private companies navigate their ESG journey. Let me introduce each one. Rating Watch. Rating Watch is an innovative tool that leverages real-time news feeds to measure and analyze the ESG sentiment of listed companies. Our intelligent bot continuously gathers the latest data sentiment, enabling precious assessment of companies' ESG performance and reputation. X-Ray. X-Ray is a powerful dashboard offering various interactive charts and graphs to visualize ESG metrics from different frameworks. This feature enables efficient navigation and provides a comprehensive view of a company ESG performance across various industry standards. It serves as a toolbox for investors, analysts, and other stakeholders interested in understanding and comparing ESG metrics using multiple frameworks, making it a significant risk mitigation tool. Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope is a state-of-the-art software featuring a comprehensive dashboard that reflects a SWOT analysis of the ESG performance of listed companies. Vision. Vision is designed for asset managers and investors to address both alpha and ESG risk. This tool enables intensity calculation for material ESG factors, utilizing adjustable divisor for enhanced flexibility. By leveraging Vision, users can effectively assess and mitigate both financial and sustainability risk. ESG GPS. ESG GPS is a groundbreaking AI-powered ESG rating tool pioneered for Africa by Africans. This innovative tool incorporates publicly disclosed, mandatory and voluntary ESG factors. It aligns with international best practices framework for listed companies on the relevant exchanges, which is covered by Risk Insight. This tool effectively addresses greenwashing by utilizing the news sentiment analysis, disclosure, and financial performance. A-Cubed. A-Cubed is an advanced AI and machine learning ESG rating tool designed for private companies. Listed companies can also leverage it for effective supply chain management, ESG assessment, and counterparty risk analysis for banks. It seamlessly captures and validates relevant ESG data, generating an ESG readiness score for each company within 48 hours. At Risk Insight, our innovative use of AI significantly accelerates the process of collecting, analyzing, and assessing a company's ESG performance. Traditionally, this process could take several weeks to months, relying heavily on manual data collection and analysis. However, with our advanced AI capabilities, we have reduced this time to just 1 day. Our current database is extensive and constantly growing. It includes data from 9 African exchanges, covering 806 companies and encompassing 330 distinct ESG elements. This robust dataset allows us to provide comprehensive and accurate insight into a company's ESG performance, ensuring that our client can make informed decisions quickly. By leveraging AI, we not only streamline the ESG assessment process, but also enhance the accuracy and depth of our analysis. In conclusion, Risk Insight is at the forefront of utilizing artificial intelligence to revolutionize the way we capture, analyze, and utilize ESG data. The challenges in this field are significant, but through our innovative application and AI-powered tool, we are addressing these obstacles head-on. At Risk Insight, our commitment to leverage AI ensures that we remain at the cutting edge of ESG innovative. We believe that by harnessing the power of technology, we can create a more transparent, accountable, and sustainable business environment. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to working together to build a better future for all.
Lastly, we have Ewald Kellerman, Head of Sustainability Strategy at Absa Group Limited.
Good day. My name is Ewald Kellerman, and I'm the Head of Sustainability Strategy for Absa Group across the African continent. Our investment in ESG has increased significantly over the last number of years. And one of the biggest challenges we've got is what is the value of ESG and how do we business case for this? As we invest, employ more people and spend money on data and analytics, does it make sense? Do we see some level of commercial benefit Do we see some level of risk protection, perhaps? All of these questions around bringing this back to a financial calculation is a challenge that we've been struggling with significantly. Part of that is a lack of data and also a lack of understanding. Depending on what type of research you read, there's quite a bit that speaks about how ESG stocks outperform and stocks that do not perform well on ESG scores. But there's also a lot of information that says that, potentially that's just a transition moving to something that's a little bit more popular, and that noxious stocks are potentially underrated and potentially even offer better fundamentals than companies with higher ESG scores. So this market is certainly something where we don't have all the answers yet. In any investment in data really does make sense to get to a better answer. Fundamentally, if you start thinking about the value of sustainability, that could potentially even last a lot longer than the immediate or short-term profit gains. Sustainability and a focus on sustainability implies that a company has to shift its focus from purely maximizing profit and introduce other constraints to either look after the environment, social or other governance type of matters, often foregoing some level of short-term profit in the process. So the most immediate outcome of spending time and effort on ESG is a reduction in profit. That might go against some of the beliefs of the audience. However, improving some of those focus areas helps to invest money, time, and effort into the environment, creating a stronger economy and a stronger ecosystem, which in turn, could potentially to the company in question. But I think a really important aspect of investing time, effort, and money into environmental, social, or governance goals means that the tail risks of that organization is reduced. Some of those tail risks include regulatory fines. Some of it includes social structures, and the response from the community or from customers or stakeholders. But certainly there is some level of cost associated with those risks. Now, while ESG focus or some level of sustainability focus could reduce short-term profits, long-term risks or tail risks are also reduced in that process. And the relationship between the two, in the bank's terms, could easily be explained in terms of return on capital. Now, the European Central Bank are obviously spending a lot more time on regulation than the rest of the world. And, a lot of that regulatory thinking is coming from that side. The European Central Bank recently published their thoughts around capital charges and capital regimes affected by climate, as an example, and climate risk stress testing. That is certainly something that we are waiting for to implement into all the bank's policies. But it still remains to be seen, how do we look from a fundamental returns perspective if our short-term returns do get reduced, but our long-term risks also get reduced. Some might argue that the reduction of long-term risks and the ability to continue your business would eventually result in a more profitable through-the-cycle company, eventually. That is a very difficult trade-off between short-term gain versus a long-term gain, and is in direct conflict with how we look at capital markets at the moment. Now, this type of analysis is not something that could easily be understood by qualitative analysis or market sentiment, but real fundamental analysis. At the moment, if you think about ESG scores, it's very difficult to draw that relationship between stock value or asset value and an ESG score. We certainly get penalized if ESG scores are off the scales or if we miss certain public commitments. But the rest of the scale is not really that certain yet. Therefore, we need investments, and such as companies such as Risk Insight really sort of helps us move towards understanding what those metrics are, how those metrics get put in place, and some level of standardization to allow us to assess the ability of a company to survive throughout the cycle. And eventually, those metrics will start influencing financials. At the moment, it affects a lot of external capital, but that financial capital, as we see it at the moment, our current accounting systems aren't sophisticated enough to pick up all of these nuances that I've just spoken about. And the only way to really get there is by investment. And that's why I think supporting a launch such as this really moves the entire world in the right direction. So APSA's role on the continent, we believe, is fundamental to promote sustainability goals. If we look at where sovereigns stand at the moment with their debt concerns, if we look at where regulators stand trying to navigate this fast-changing regulatory environment and trying to fit to the Northern Hemisphere or the global North's understanding of where we, what are the things we should focus on, we start realizing that there's a very big opportunity for Africa to come together, share regional taxonomies, share thinking, work on data that really affects us. And I think, adjust this ESG landscape in a way that really serves the global South. We don't necessarily have exactly the same challenges from a social perspective or environmental perspective, given our contribution, as well as our financial materiality impacts that we see from the effects of climate change. I'll leave you with these comments, is to say that I think that there's a much bigger role for corporates across the country to play that might actually transcend political barriers as well as regulatory barriers in order to help promote the correct use of data, doing the right thing, and helping to promote the sustainability agenda. And that's why it's so important that APSA, as well as Risk Insights, works together with many clients across the continent in order to promote what's best for us and form a single African view. Thank you very much for your time, and all the best.